What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. If you missed my live stream earlier, good news. I've got you covered here for Danielle Smith and everything that just happened as she just declared open war on Ottawa. Now, what does it mean by that? I can already see it right now. People, hey, Fringe, that's clickbait. Don't say those things. Don't you dare say she declared war. She did no such thing. I'm going to explain why I'm saying that in this press conference. Now, as Danielle sat down to address the province and essentially address the nation, because a lot of eyes are on top of Alberta's separation. I keep saying separatization as a joke from our live streams. I know a lot of people don't get it. It's just a joke. I do know proper English. When she's going to address about separation, the possibility of referendum in Alberta. Not only did she basically say it's going to happen today, but she did it in a very, very smart way. Now, again, if you joined me on that live stream, as I came in, I said one of two things is going to happen. She's either going to make everybody mad on the side of separation by saying she's willing to work with the federal government, or she's going to lose half of her base bowing down to those who want to separate or have a referendum. For those who maybe don't understand why Albertans want that. What Danielle delivered today was an unequivocally amazing, very smart, very thought out speech as to how Alberta moves forward. Now, Danielle Smith, of course, cannot go into this promoting referendum. She cannot promote separation from Canada. However, the way this was handled just bought Alberta the guarantee of at least a vote into separation on a referendum. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about here so people can stop saying, Derek, it's clickbait. Super lawyer Keith Wilson, good friend of mine. To Albertans feeling unheard by Ottawa, Premier Smith hears you. She commits to respecting a citizen-led referendum on independence in 2026. I'm going to get to that because, again, I'm sure a lot of people are jumping the gun saying, well, that's too much time. We don't want that. We want it now. So it says, she commits to respecting a citizen-led referendum on 2026, empowering Albertans to shape their future. Frustrated by Ottawa's attacks on Alberta prosperity, Premier Smith vows to uphold the democratic process, ensuring citizen-initiated referendum on independence is held in 2026 if signatures are secured. Which, this is where I'm saying they pretty much already are. They already are. The threshold, if you've forgotten, was lowered to roughly 177,000 people. They have those numbers already as committed signatures through AlbertaProsperityProject.com. You should head over there if you're in Alberta wanting to get on that list, by the way. Not only are you able to pledge that you're going to sign when that comes to be available, but it also has a lot of good information on there for you to go through, a lot of video clips, things to get you familiarized with why they started the movement towards Alberta prosperity in the first place. But the signatures are basically in place already. What Danielle said, if you want me to break down the cliff notes of her addressing of the province, essentially, she talked about the abuse that we have received from Ottawa, not just over the last 10 years, but multiple decades. She talked about how Quebec is not entitled to the equalization that they get, that we have no problem distributing equalization to smaller provinces, but Quebec should certainly not be on that list. She's also said to MARK CARNEY that she wants access to northern, eastern, and western oil markets, as well as south, which means a pipeline going to Quebec. Now, Blanchette and Legault have been very forward to let us know they will not support any form of a pipeline moving forward. We still have yet to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney as to what he feels about Alberta separation and the uprising of separation in the province. But what Danielle has done is put them on a timeline. She has said that essentially 2026 there will be a referendum for Albertans. Now, there's going to be a multitude of things on that referendum, but if the signatures are gathered for Albertans, if there's enough signatures to appeal the referendum question, however the question may come through as to should Alberta leave, then that will be entertained on that ballot as well. Many people in the live stream were saying, well, this means Danielle's selling out to the federal government. No, she's not. What she has told them, basically, and here's a timeline for you if you want to know where I've said she's declared war on them. Mark Carney brings the government back at the end of May to go into the House of Commons to start up, question period, to start debating, to start putting forward some bills, things he wants to do. And then the government is going to go on vacation for the summer after a couple of weeks, just like they did in the fall. If you remember what happened last year, government went for their summer break. They came back in the fall for a couple of weeks, and then Trudeau prorogued Parliament because he didn't want to hand over SDTC documents. And we got to basically where we are now. For over a year, pretty much, the Canadian government has not been to work. They have not gone to work. They have not done anything, which again begs the question, why do we pay so much for our government in the first place when we seem to be doing just fine without them? That aside, they can't really do much between the end of May and mid of June to convince Quebec that they need to put through a pipeline, that things have to change with equalization, that Alberta has to get a fairer deal at the table. So they'll break for summer and they'll come back to the fall, which only gives a couple of months for Mark Carney to get his act together and start providing a fair deal for Albertans. All the while, Albertans are gathering their signatures so that the question of separation can be on a ballot. What happens in 2026 is that the more Albertans will see the mistreatment of the Liberal government, the more Mark Carney refuses to give in to Danielle's requests, the more that Quebec feels to give in to Danielle's requests. Again, this isn't a negotiation, this is what Alberta needs. It gets to the point where you're now convincing more Albertans who maybe don't understand separation or don't approve of separation to be mistreated for the next few months, to see that Carney's just the same old song and dance from the Liberals. It could mean a very prominent vote for referendum, but it also means that Alberta Prosperity Project now has the time to plan accordingly over the next 6 months, because they've already got their committed signatures as to how they're going to get over 50% of the province to agree or disagree to the idea of separation. One of two things is going to happen. Alberta's going to vote in referendum, or Mark Carney's going to give in, bend the knee, and tell Quebec, okay, guys, you're done. We can't do anything more for you, which is going to cause a big problem with Quebec as well. Danielle has started a war in this country. Take a listen to what Danielle had to say, just so you can see how it was put together. Of course, again, like I said, she cannot champion separation. But the way she did this was so calculated. Take a look.
However, if there is a successful citizen-led referendum petition that is able to gather the requisite number of signatures requesting such a question to be put on a referendum, our government will respect the democratic process and include that question on the 2026 provincial referendum ballot as well. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, that being separation. We are well aware that there is a large and growing number of Albertans that have lost hope in Alberta having a free and prosperous future as a part of Canada. Many of these Albertans are organizing petitions to trigger a citizen-initiated referendum, as I mentioned earlier. The vast majority of these individuals are not fringe voices to be marginalized or vilified. They are loyal Albertans. They are quite literally our friends and neighbors who've just had enough of having their livelihoods and prosperity attacked by a hostile federal government. They're frustrated, and they have every reason to be. I want to talk directly to those Albertans. I know how frustrated so many of you have become with our country and the feeling of having politicians living thousands of miles away, passing laws and rules that have cost you your loved ones, jobs, careers, dreams, and opportunities for a brighter future. Now, none of us knows what the future holds should Ottawa, for whatever reason, continue to attack our province, as they have done over the last decade. Ultimately, that will be for Albertans to decide, and I will accept their judgment.
So I'll leave it to Albertans to decide, and I will accept their judgment. So again, she's not going to champion separation. She's not going to champion referendum, but she has said that as the Premier of Alberta, she has an obligation to accept the judgment of her constituents, those who give her a mandate to decide the fate of what happens to their province. The next few months are going to be very, very interesting, especially when you take into account, again, the federal government going on summer break. And with the weather being as nice as it is, how large are these separation rallies going to get over the summer? While Albertans continue to vent their frustrations to their government as they grow in numbers. And for those who say it's not possible, it's not going to happen, it can't happen, I beg to differ when you look at something to the same extent of a rising up against the government as the Freedom Convoy. Yes, it was organized in a very quick period of time. However, if only a few vehicles showed up on Ottawa's doorstep, the government simply would have sneered and laughed and said, well, we don't have to take this seriously. But when thousands of trucks descended upon Ottawa and sat on the government's front lawn, the Emergency Act was the only thing they could muster aside from freezing bank accounts and declaring war on their own citizens to deal with what they didn't expect to see. I have a sneaking suspicion that as the months go on and the mistreatment of Mark Carney continues to come to Alberta, uh, people will see again buyer's remorse. They're getting what they voted for. And while most Albertans did not vote for a Carney-led government, I think it'll be enough to convince those who are opposed to separation to maybe reconsider what's best for them moving forward and grow these fringe numbers in Alberta. As Danielle says, we're all Albertans. We just want to care about our families. We care about our prosperity. We care about our future. It'll be very interesting to see where things go, but Danielle Smith absolutely knocked it out of the park today. I'm very, very shocked and awed in complete respect as to how she was able to take such a difficult address to her province and put it forward in a way to satisfy both sides of the fence. Um, Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Alberta will succeed in its referendum vote? We know we're getting the vote. Danielle has said it'll be on the 2026 ballot. Do you think Alberta's independence will succeed? Do you think it'll fail and some Albertans will give in to maybe Carney isn't just as bad as we think he is? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. We're so close to 100,000, folks. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on your bell for all notifications so you don't miss a beat when any videos drop on this channel. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, my weekly live streaming show where I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead that we're aware of, as well as hearing your Q&A and comments outside of making these videos. I always look forward to hearing what you have to say in those streams, and I look most forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.